students, have you ever seen a bleeding plant? That is, a detopped plant from the stem of which exudates are coming out. This exudation may take for hours to even days. I hope you have seen the accumulation of water droplets at the edge of the leaves of colocasia, strawberry, etc. The physiology behind this exudation from a detopped plant or accumulation of water at the edges of the plant is due to root pressure, guttation, and we are going to talk about the significance of this root pressure and guttation. So, the objective of our study is to know about the ascent of sap, to know the history of research of water movement as different theories of ascent of sap, to emphasize on root pressure as a modern concept of ascent of sap, and to know the guttation and outcome of root pressure. Before knowing about all these things, we have to learn or we have to know what sap means. Sap is a dilute solution of water and mineral ions absorbed from soil, which moves upward from root to various parts of the plants. The process of translocation of sap from root to different parts of plants is known as translocation. This movement is usually against the gravity. It is also known as ascent of sap. There are different theories which help to understand the ascent of sap. The theories are broadly divided into three heads: vital force theory, physical force theory, and root pressure theory. Vital force theory. Proponents of these theories states that the vital capacity of the living cell is responsible for the ascent of sap. Xylem vessel through which translocation takes place or non-living, they are in contact with living cell like xylem parenchyma and ray cells. Vital activities of these living cells promote the upward translocation of water. The proponents of vital theory are Godlewski and Professor J.C. Bose. Godlewski proposed relay pump theory. According to this theory, vertical movement of sap through the xylem are due to rhythmic change in the osmotic pressure of the living cell like xylem parenchyma, medullary rays, etc. This rhythmic change caused a pumping action to raise water vertically against gravity. Godlewski suggests a staircase path of movement of water. According to him, vessels are the reservoirs. The cells, basically the living one, which is lying beside these vessels, they, due to reduction in osmotic pressure, draw water from these reservoirs. Due to air pressure, the water moves up and incoming of water increase the water potential of the cell. As a result, the water is again transported to the next vessel. In this way, each living cell is transporting water to the xylem vessels, which is lying beside it and just above it. So, the theory is considered as staircase pathway. There are some objections regarding Godlewski's relay pump theory. The theory was discarded by Strasburger when he showed that water translocation continued in plants even after the living cells has been killed by temperature or by poison. Overton and McDougall also confirmed this observation. by performing experiments with inhibitors like mercury chloride and picric acid. The structure of wood does not support this view. The living cells should be in between two vessels or tracheids for efficient translocation, but actually they remain at the side of the vessels. Next theory is proposed by J.C. Bose. His theory is called as pulsatory movement theory. According to this theory, the pulsation is created by the living cells. He experimentally showed that the living cells of the innermost layer of the cortex were in a state of pulsatory motion, that is, alternate expansion and contraction. This pulsation, according to him, is caused by pumping of water from cell to cell in upward direction. He performed an experiment. In his experiment, he used a potted plant, galvanometer, some copper wire, a dry cell and a needle probe. He connected one end of the galvanometer to the living plant. The other end of the galvanometer is connected to the needle of the probe. When he inserted the needle into the stem of the plant, he observed some pulsation or vibration in the needle of the galvanometer. This pulsation increases when the needle was inserted deeper into the stem. He observed that at a certain portion in the inner part of the cortex, maximum vibration of needle of the galvanometer is there, which reduces on either side of this layer. His theory was supported by Molish in 1928. On expansion, the cells absorbed water from the lower cells, and on contraction, water was pumped into the next higher cells. This is suggested by Molish. Bose also observed that for one pulsation, it took 14 seconds. This pulsation was called by J.C. Bose as heart beating of plant. Molish showed that the movement of pulsation could be greatly increased by heart stimulating drugs. Still, there are lots of objections in this theory too. Workers like Dixon, Schall, McDougall, etc. have pointed out that there is no relationship between such pulsatory movement and the rate of water translocation. For water translocation to higher parts of a plant, near about 200 to 400 pulsatory cells per second is required, while according to J.C. Bose, there are one pulsation in 14 seconds. So, this theory does not stand for ascent of sap to higher plants. Physical force theory is the next theory. According to physical force theory, the dead xylem cell is the only part which actually take part in translocation or movement of water. No living cell has any role in the movement of water or translocation of water. Some scientists like Boehm, he proposed a theory. According to him, the finer capillaries of the xylem, they allow the water to rise up. Imbibition theory is proposed by Sachs. According to him, water is imbibed through the cell wall material. There is another theory called atmospheric pressure theory. According to this theory, active transpiration causes fall in atmospheric pressure, and due to this, the water rises up in the capillary. But all these theories do not explain properly the movement of water to plants which are about 100 meters tall. There is another theory proposed by Dixon and Joly which is called as cohesion tension theory. According to this theory, there is a cohesive force within the molecules of water. This cohesive force allows the water to form an unbreakable column. Dixon and Joly suggested that the transpiration pool produce a negative pressure which allow this column of water to rise up. This theory was accepted by most of the scientists. Now, root pressure theory. Root pressure is the transverse osmotic pressure within the cell of a root system that causes sap to rise through a plant stem to the leaves. This can be observed through an experiment. If a plant whose stem is cut from the ground up to 3 centimeter and a glass tube was fit tightly on the top of the stem, then one can observe that water starts accumulating in that tube. If the tube is connected with a manometer, then the pressure of the exudation of this liquid can also be measured. This pressure is known as root pressure. Now, the cause of root pressure. Root pressure occurs in the xylem of some vascular plants when the soil moisture level is high either at night or when transpiration is low during the day. At that time, due to the accumulation of mineral ions in the cell, decrease or lowers the osmotic potential of the cell. As a result, the water is transported from the soil to the cell. The movement of water from the soil to the cell and gradually to the cells of the cortex leads this water to reach just prior to the cortical layer of endodermis. In the endodermis, due to the presence of Casparian strip, which is a suberized layer, the water fails to enter this layer. In the endodermis, some cells called passage cells are there, through which only the water can enter in the vascular region of the plant. The accumulation of water in the cortical region generates a pressure, and this pressure is transmitted through the passage cell to the xylem vessels. As a result, the water is forced up. This is a positive force. Now, the significance. Root pressure can transport water and dissolved mineral nutrients from root through the xylem to the top of the relatively short plants when transpiration is low or zero. In modern concept, root pressure serves as the starter and transpiration acts as the motor. Combined effect help the tall plants to draw water up to the top of the plant. Now, uses of root pressure for plants. Root pressure helps in re-establishing the continuous chain of water molecules in the xylem. Transpirational pull maintains the flow of water molecules from root to shoot. When the nutrients are absorbed by root hairs, water along with minerals increases the pressure in the xylem. This pressure pushes the water up up to small heights. Root pressure is associated with the phenomenon of guttation. What is guttation? Guttation is the exudation of the drops of xylem sap on the tips or edges of the leaves of some vascular plants such as tomato, grasses, colocasia, cucurbita, balsam, etc. and a number of fungi. Guttation is not to be confused with dew, which condensed from the atmosphere onto the plant surface. Causes of guttation. When there is a high soil moisture level, water will enter plant roots. Because the water potential of the root is lower than in the soil solution, the water will accumulate in the plant, creating a root pressure. The root pressure forces some water to exude through special structures called hydatodes or water glands, forming drops. Chemical contents of exudates of guttation. Guttation fluid may contain a variety of organic and inorganic compounds. Guttation liquid is a solution slightly acidic containing many minerals such as salts of sulfur, phosphorus, magnesium, manganese, sodium, aluminium, chlorine, even hexoses and enzymes like catalase, amylase and peroxidases. On drying, a white crust remains on the leaf surface. Now, hydatodes. Hydatodes are made of a group of living cells with numerous intercellular spaces filled with water but few or no chloroplast and represent modified bundle ends. These cells, called epitheme, open out into one or more subepidermal chamber. These in turn communicate with the exterior through an open water stoma or open pore. So, the topic can be summarized as there are different theories of ascent of sap, among which cohesion tension theory of Dixon and root pressure theory combinedly help the plant to draw water up to a height of say even 100 meters. The root pressure also help to accumulate water at the edges of the leaves, which is known as guttation. Thank you.